Everybody, this is Perch, and I'd really like to find a better thumbnail than Who is Spider-Boy for? But that's probably what the video title and thumbnail will be when this ultimately is published. And because I like this to be actual commentary and not just come off as sounding super negative, but it is a reasonable question to ask. So it is a question from a viewer, and it says, Dear Perch, recently I've been thinking about the current Spider-Boy book, which might as well turn out to have gotten canceled by the time you read this letter. Probably. It's been no secret that I loathe the retcon nature of the character and how it's just another long-lost character that Slott has added to Spider-Man. This email isn't about that. Now to the core of the email. As I look at the Spider-Boy in the solicitations every month, I wonder who exactly this title is for. Ostensibly, it's targeted at more of a pre-teen audience, but Marvel isn't selling that book in a manner that properly hits that demographic. It's a $5 price tag, way too steep for a kid to really want to pick up on their own. While various variants suggest Marvel is treating this as a title aimed at collectors and not newer readers. Finally, comic book shops aren't the best retailer to ensure this title consistently finds its core audience. It depends on a parent going out of their way to buy a comic for their kid rather than it being a place kids regularly frequent. Real quick, just on that, you know, and this is maybe a knock more against comic book retailers than anything else. It is common, as your core collector audience, your whales, have gotten older, that several now have children. And the fact that they now have children mean that they're bringing those children into the shop with them at times. And invariably, if you're a parent and you've had kids, you know that this is a case where, the kids are suddenly like, hey, buy me, I'd like a comic too. And you want to encourage that. You want to encourage them also getting comic books and sharing a thing you love. But it's often the case that for a lot of shops, they don't. It would be very easy to have a little section of here's some comics that you should pick up for your kids. Whether it's like start them out on a brand new series, #1, or here's something aimed more at their demographic. It'd be a relatively easy thing to do, and it would be smart to do. But, at the same time, you also got stock coming in every month. Most of your attention's now on, Funko Pops and trying to pay rent. And I mean, it's just, it's an idea that probably struggles a little bit in the current market. But anyway, it's out there. We'll finish up this mail. It says, if Marvel really wants to get a younger audience onto buying Spider-Boy, they're doing it all wrong. First off, only have one cover for each issue. This is a title aimed at kids, not core collectors. The price tag needs to be lower as well, because why should a parent buy a short $5 comic when you can get a hardcover Dogman book, 200 plus pages for about $15? Actually, way more less than that. You go to Walmart and Target, and those things are clocking in at $7. It's no joke. It's crazy. They're always perpetually on sale. Even when they come out brand new, it's like a launch sale, and then it's like anyway. If comics are going to be for kids, they need to actually be places where kids are. Marvel is so out of touch with their demographics, and that's why books like Spider-Boy won't last long. They are distributed accordingly to their target market. Now, look, first of all, I can't agree more. It's a major problem, and I think that I've said this in many videos in the past at different times. I think there's a lot of it's reasonable to say, hey, we need to get a kid audience, or we need to get a new audience. It's different from saying we need to get new people buying comics from we need to replace the audience we have. And some people say that part out loud, but generally they just mean we need more customers, more people coming into the comics. Okay, cool. So if we need more kids buying comics, then you do have to look at all these elements. And to me, Spider-Boy is not for kids. I mean, I'm sorry. I understand that's kind of how it was billed in a few cases. It's like, get that new audience. The audience is going to really like it. But then if you read it, I mean, look, it's first off, it's written by it's written by a guy who I think has not out of touch at all with kids. Just putting that out there. I mean, the stuff that he writes he's got a style. I mean, Dan Slott here, or Christos Gage, whoever's writing the book. But he's got a style, but it's not a style that would be something that kids in their 8 to 14 are going to pick up. A lot of them won't. It's written. It's like, I've used this example before where you have Pixar movies and they say, hey, it's a movie aimed for kids. They've got little Easter eggs in there for adults. And every now and then Pixar's put out a movie where the Easter eggs for adults are more than Easter eggs or giant boulders. And it just, the whole thing is super, super awkward. That's how this feels. That's how Dan Slott's stuff feels. It's like you kind of see him attempting to appeal to kids in some odd way, but it doesn't land like that, and it just comes off strange. Anyway, you got to get somebody else on it, and then you have to, all the things you're saying. Don't appeal to collectors. Don't have multiple covers. You got to think about cliffhangers and crossovers differently. You have to think about the fact that your audience may pick up the books in a somewhat random order. They may not start with issue 1, so therefore, you got to figure out kind of how to do that. And the other things, kind of the comic book tropes of, a big mystery and a reveal and, how this stuff's going to come about. It's not going to fit that audience. You got to keep it a little bit simpler. You got to go to core storytelling. You got to have, at the end of the day, character, show up, struggle, overcome, beat villain, happiness. You can't get into the mystery of like, was he cloned? Who's that? Like a lot of this convoluted stuff. It's not going to hit children at that level. And yeah, the price is an issue, and definitely the distribution is an issue. But to be more positive about it, if you're Marvel, why wouldn't you come up with some brand new characters? Say they're in the 616, they're part of the mainstream Marvel universe. Every now and then you could have them show up in an event or in the background of an issue, or put a backup story in an annual or something, and what you do the direct market. But otherwise, sell this title exclusively in Walmart and Target and the dollar store and places like that. Sell it there, and basically tell your audience, yeah, we're branching beyond for this new market. I think that solves a couple things for you. Some collectors are going to then drive to Walmart to want to be part of this, and you'll start getting this crossover audience. But realistically, look, I think the tone of the book is wrong. I mean, so I've read this comic. The art is not bad. The art isn't bad for kid stuff. But first of all, it's got a lot of stuff going on. We got the kid, he's kind of a dick. He's also maybe homeless, and he's, helping out the shelter, and Aunt May's involved somehow. And it's like, and then the villains are kind of, himself half the time. And then also maybe he got monstrous powers, and, you're supposed to say, hey, you got to look past that, but it's hard to look past it when, he does seem like he's a threat half the time to some people. Just like the whole package is off. There's just no other way to put it. It doesn't really appeal to collectors. I mean, you have to be really dyed in the wool, wanting to do everything Dan Slott has, if it's going to appeal to you on that level. But beyond that, it's just, even there, like this title really makes you work to want. That's more or less, I think, the problem with this title. I don't think it's built to sell to the audience it's claiming to sell for, and I also think it's I'm not sure what audience it's in the uncanny valley of comics. It's not really built for anyone, and it's built for really hardcore Spider-Man collectors who are being assaulted with 15 other Spider books. I mean, we're heading toward an event in the future, a Venom crossover, and we've got several Spider-Man crossovers. We got another Spider-Man multiverse book out, and it's like at some point you're going, how and the mystery of people forgot him and he's being retconned in. Like, and for that matter, I'll throw one more thing out here. If the problem with Spider-Man and Mary Jane's marriage was that it made him, seemingly too old and thus unrelatable, what does a forgotten kid sidekick do? I don't even know. Like, it's supposed to be down on your luck Parker, and yet he's inspired a kid who's in a costume. He goes on adventures with him. Like, I don't understand how any of this stuff works. It's anyway, quite odd. All right, there you go. Are you reading Spider Boy? If so, what are you seeing in it? And what other book? There's other books besides this one that both companies, both of the big two, regularly kind of create for a different audience, but then they sell to the same old audience. And isn't that the definition of insanity? I don't know. Thanks for listening.